In a galaxy ruled by strength, Earth was barely a whisper. Among titans of war and empires of fire, they called us the quiet species. Too soft, too peaceful, too human. But in the heart of the diplomatic arena, one young scientist stood alone. Not with weapons, but with wisdom. Not with conquest, but with questions. And when the galaxy laughed, she spoke, and silence fell. The unexpected ambassador, the Nexus station stretched across space like a metallic flower, its 47 petals each designed to accommodate a different alien species. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her face to the viewport of the human transport ship, watching the massive structure grow larger as they approached. Each petal glowed with different colors and energy signatures, creating a rainbow that had never been seen from Earth. "Impressive, isn't it?" Captain Marcus Chen said, joining her at the window. His military uniform was crisp and formal, but Elena could see the tension in his shoulders. "Hard to believe we're actually here." Elena nodded, clutching her worn leather briefcase tighter. Inside were humanity's hopes for joining the Galactic Confederation, condensed into research papers, cultural documents, and technological specifications. At 28, she was the youngest xenobiologist ever chosen for a first contact mission. Many back on Earth thought she was too young, too inexperienced. The aliens would probably think the same thing. "Remember," Marcus said quietly, "let me handle any security issues. Your job is to focus on the science and diplomacy." Their ship docked with a soft thud, and Elena felt her stomach tighten. The airlock opened with a hiss, revealing a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and the air carried scents she couldn't identify. Sweet, metallic, alive. Two figures waited for them. The first was tall and insect-like, with 4 arms and compound eyes that sparkled like jewels. The second resembled a walking tree made of silver bark, with branches that moved like arms and leaves that chimed softly in an unfelt breeze. "Welcome to Nexus Station," the insect being said, its voice like wind through crystal chimes. "I am Ambassador Clix of the Zareth Coalition. This is Counselor Verdun of the Sylvan Republic. We will escort you to the Confederation chamber." Elena stepped forward, offering a human handshake. The gesture seemed to puzzle both aliens. After an awkward moment, Clix extended one of its 4 hands and briefly touched Elena's palm. "Interesting custom," Clix observed. "Direct physical contact for greeting. Most species consider such behavior aggressive." "We find it helps build trust," Elena replied, managing a smile despite her nervousness. As they walked through the station's corridors, Elena marveled at the diversity around her. She saw beings made of living crystal, creatures that floated like jellyfish in environmental suits, and others that defied easy description. Many stopped to stare at the humans, their expressions unreadable but clearly curious. "The Confederation is eager to learn about your species," Verdun said, its voice like rustling leaves. "Though we must admit, your people puzzle us greatly." "How so?" Marcus asked. "You are the only species we have encountered that achieves space travel without first conquering your own world," Clix explained. "Most civilizations unite through domination. One group defeats all others, then expands to the stars. But humans appear to have cooperated." Elena caught the subtle dismissal in the alien's tone. "Cooperation has always been humanity's strength." "Perhaps," Clix said, though it didn't sound convinced. "We shall see what the Council thinks." The Confederation chamber was breathtaking. It was a massive sphere with seating arranged in concentric rings, each level designed for different types of beings. At the center sat the High Council, representatives from the 7 most powerful species in the galaxy. The air hummed with translation devices and the soft murmur of dozens of alien languages. "Beings of the Confederation," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We present the representatives of species designation human from the planet called Earth." Elena and Marcus were guided to a small platform in the center of the chamber. Hundreds of alien eyes, sensors, and other perception organs focused on them. Elena had given presentations before, but never to an audience that could literally read her biosigns and emotional state through advanced technology. High Counselor Thane, a massive creature that looked like a cross between a dragon and a machine, leaned forward in its throne-like chair. "Humans of Earth, you seek membership in our confederation. Tell us why your species deserves this honor." Elena stepped forward, her heart pounding. She had practiced this speech 100 times, but now the words felt inadequate. "Honored beings, humanity comes before you not as conquerors or dominators, but as partners. We offer our knowledge, our creativity, and our commitment to peaceful cooperation." A sound like grinding metal filled the chamber. It took Elena a moment to realize it was laughter. Peaceful cooperation, rumbled Counselor Vex, a being that resembled a massive spider made of living shadow. How quaint. Tell us, little human, what have your people conquered? What worlds bow before your might? What species have you enslaved or absorbed? None, Elena replied honestly. We have never conquered another species because we have never encountered one before now. This caused an even louder round of alien laughter. High Counselor Thane raised a metal claw for silence. You misunderstand, young human. We do not ask about other species. We ask about your own world. Every civilization in this chamber unified their planet through strength. The Zareth conquered 47 hive cities before achieving spaceflight. The Vorton Empire absorbed 600 lesser kingdoms. The Tharn Collective assimilated every other mechanical intelligence on their world. Yet humans claim to have reached space through cooperation? Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks. Yes, we work together. Impossible, declared Counselor Nereth, whose crystalline form pulsed with skeptical energy. Cooperation is inefficient. It leads to compromise, weakness, endless debate. Strong species take what they need and eliminate obstacles. Weak species cooperate until they are conquered by someone stronger. But we did reach space, Marcus interjected, his military training keeping his voice steady. We're here. Yes, you are here, agreed High Counselor Thane, which puzzles us greatly. Your technology is crude compared to ours. Your weapons are primitive, your ships are barely adequate for interstellar travel, yet somehow you achieve these things without the driving force of conquest and domination. How? Elena looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces watching her. She had prepared for many questions, but not this fundamental misunderstanding of what made humanity strong. Because, she said slowly, cooperation isn't weakness. It's efficiency multiplied by creativity. The chamber fell quiet. Explain, commanded High Counselor Thane. Elena opened her briefcase and pulled out a simple device, no bigger than her palm. This is a human invention called a smartphone. It contains more computing power than the first computers that filled entire buildings. It can communicate with similar devices anywhere on our planet instantly. It can access the sum total of human knowledge and entertainment. She held it up for the chamber to see. This device was not created by one person or even one company. Its creation required millions of humans working together. Miners extracted the raw materials. Engineers designed the circuits. Programmers wrote the software. Artists created the interfaces. Countless others manufactured, tested, distributed, and improved every component. Counselor Vex leaned forward, shadows writhing around its form. So, many species can coordinate large projects. But here's what makes it truly human, Elena continued. Nobody forced these millions of people to work together. They chose to cooperate because they all benefited from the result. The miner got paid for the materials. The engineer got to solve interesting problems. The programmer got to create something useful. The artist got to express creativity. Everyone contributed their best effort because they wanted the project to succeed. She paused, looking around the chamber. When people choose to cooperate, they don't just add their abilities together, they multiply them. A human working alone might invent something useful, but millions of humans working together by choice can reshape reality itself. Pretty words, rumbled Counselor Thane, but words do not prove strength. What has this cooperation achieved? What challenges have your people overcome? Elena smiled, and for the first time since entering the chamber, she felt confident. We eliminated diseases that had killed millions. We turned deserts into gardens and fed billions. We sent machines to other planets to explore where we couldn't go ourselves. We created art and music and stories that inspired entire generations to dream bigger dreams. And, Marcus added, we did all of this while our planet was still divided into nearly 200 separate nations, each with its own government, culture, and interests. We cooperated across every possible barrier humans could create. High Counselor Thane's mechanical features shifted into what might have been curiosity. You maintained cooperation despite political divisions? This is unusual. It's human, Elena said simply. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Emergency lights bathed everything in pulsing red. A voice spoke in rapid alien languages that Elena's translator couldn't keep up with. What's happening? Marcus asked, his hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm. Ambassador Clix appeared at their platform, its compound eyes wide with panic. Crisis-level emergency. The Nexus station's power core is failing. If it cannot be stabilized within 6 hours, the station will be destroyed. How many beings are on this station? Elena asked. Approximately 2.3 million, Clicks replied, its voice tight with fear. High Counselor Thane stood, its massive form towering over the chamber. Emergency protocols are now in effect. All species will contribute their best engineers and scientists to solve this crisis. The Confederation's finest minds will work together to save the station. Elena looked at Marcus, who nodded slightly. She turned back to the High Counselor. Honored Counselor, may humanity contribute to this effort? The dragon-like being stared down at her. Your species has been here for less than 1 day. You know nothing of our technology or the station's systems. What could you possibly contribute? Elena clutched her briefcase and felt the weight of humanity's hopes inside it. Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of species were already organizing technical teams, accessing databases, and coordinating repair efforts. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy were preparing to save 2.3 million lives. Maybe nothing, Elena admitted. But cooperation isn't just about what you know. It's about seeing problems from a new angle. Humans have gotten very good at solving impossible problems by thinking differently. High Counselor Thane considered this for a long moment while alarms continued to blare and emergency teams raced through the station corridors. Very well, the massive being finally said. Humanity may observe and offer suggestions, but do not interfere with the real work being done by actual engineers. As Elena and Marcus were escorted toward the engineering sections, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this crisis was about to become humanity's real test. Not their formal presentation or diplomatic speeches, but their ability to help save millions of lives using nothing but cooperation and creativity. The quiet species was about to get very loud indeed. The engineering deck of Nexus Station buzzed with controlled chaos. Representatives from 47 species clustered around holographic displays, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, harmonic tones, and electronic sounds. Elena watched in fascination as beings she couldn't have imagined worked alongside ancient machines and technology that seemed almost magical. The problem is in the quantum resonance matrix, explained Chief Engineer Gorath, a four-armed being whose rocky skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The core has been stable for 3,000 years, but something has caused a cascade failure in the harmonic stabilizers. Elena studied the technical displays floating in the air around them. The mathematics was complex, but she could see the basic problem. The station's power core worked by maintaining perfect balance between multiple quantum fields. When one field went out of alignment, it created a domino effect that would eventually tear the entire structure apart. Have you tried recalibrating the primary resonance frequency? Asked Dr. Ziloth, a crystalline being whose body contained what appeared to be living circuits. Of course, Gorath replied, somewhat irritated. We've attempted every standard solution. Frequency recalibration, harmonic dampening, quantum field inversion, even emergency plasma injection. Nothing works, the cascade is too advanced. What about a controlled shutdown? Suggested another engineer, this one resembling a mechanical butterfly with 6 wings. Impossible, Gorath said. The cascade effect prevents safe shutdown procedures. Any attempt to power down the core now would cause immediate catastrophic failure instead of the 6-hour delay we currently have. Elena listened to the technical discussion while Marcus stayed alert for any security issues. The alien engineers were clearly brilliant, with access to technology that made human science look like cave paintings. But as she watched them work, she began to notice something interesting. Every solution they proposed followed the same pattern. Identify the failing component, apply more power or different frequencies, attempt to force the system back into its original configuration. They were trying to fight the cascade effect, to overpower it with superior technology. Excuse me? Elena said quietly, stepping closer to the main display. Several alien engineers turned to look at her with expressions that ranged from curiosity to irritation. Yes, human? Gorath asked with barely concealed impatience. I was wondering, has anyone considered working with the cascade instead of against it? The engineering deck grew quieter as more beings turned their attention to Elena. Work with it? Dr. Ziloth's crystalline form pulsed with confusion. The cascade is the problem. It is destroying the station's power matrix. I understand, Elena said, approaching the holographic display. But on Earth we have a saying, if you can't fight the current, learn to swim with it. Explain, commanded Gorath, though his tone suggested he expected to be disappointed. Elena studied the display more carefully, her mind racing. The cascade is happening because the quantum fields are trying to find a new equilibrium, right? Instead of forcing them back to the old configuration, what if we help them find a stable new one? Impossible, said the mechanical butterfly engineer. The power core was designed for specific harmonic frequencies. Any deviation from those parameters will result in complete failure. But what if it doesn't have to? Elena asked. She turned to Marcus, who was watching the technical discussion with the alert patience of a soldier. Remember the Mumbai grid crisis 5 years ago? Marcus nodded. The power grid failure that threatened to black out half of Asia. What happened? Asked Dr. Ziloth, its crystalline curiosity apparently overriding its skepticism. The traditional solution was to repair the damaged power stations and restore the original grid configuration, Elena explained. But a team of engineers realized that the massive power failure had actually created an opportunity. Instead of rebuilding the old system, they designed a completely new grid that was more efficient and more stable than what came before. They turned the crisis into an improvement, Marcus added. Goreth's bioluminescent patterns pulsed faster, indicating increased interest. You suggest rebuilding the station's power matrix during the cascade failure? Not rebuilding, Elena corrected. Guiding. The quantum fields want to find a new equilibrium. What if we calculated what that equilibrium would look like and helped them reach it safely? The alien engineers looked at each other with expressions Elena was learning to interpret as surprise. The computational requirements would be enormous, Dr. Ziloth said slowly. We would need to model trillions of quantum interactions in real time while the cascade is ongoing. And we would have to do it without any margin for error, added the butterfly engineer. One miscalculation and we accelerate the cascade instead of controlling it. But it's possible? Elena asked. Gorath's 4 arms moved in complex patterns as he accessed his internal computers. Theoretically, yes, but it would require perfect coordination between all of our computational systems and every engineer on the station. The slightest communication error or timing mistake would be catastrophic. Elena felt a familiar excitement building in her chest. This was the kind of impossible problem that humans excelled at solving. How many different computational systems are running on this station? She asked. 47 primary systems, each optimized for different species thinking patterns, Dr. Ziloth replied, plus hundreds of secondary systems for specialized functions. And they all use different programming languages, different mathematical frameworks, different logical structures, Elena continued, her mind racing ahead. Obviously, Gorath said, each species developed their technology independently. Compatibility between systems is limited. Elena smiled, and several aliens took a step back at the expression. On Earth, she said, we have a similar problem. Humans speak over 6,000 different languages, use dozens of different mathematical systems, and think in ways that vary dramatically between cultures and individuals. And, the butterfly engineer asked. And we learn to make it work anyway, Elena replied. Not by forcing everyone to think the same way, but by creating translation protocols, coordination systems, and management structures that let different minds work together toward the same goal. She turned to face the assembled engineers. You've been trying to solve this problem the way each of your species would solve it individually. But what if we combined all 47 approaches into a single coordinated effort? Impossible, Dr. Ziloth said immediately. The computational overhead for that level of coordination would be manageable, Elena interrupted, if we design the coordination system correctly. She walked to the main display and began manipulating the holographic interface. To her surprise, it responded to human gestures almost intuitively. Look, she said, pulling up schematics of the station's computational network. You have 47 different systems, each one powerful enough to model quantum interactions for its own species technology. Instead of trying to integrate them into one big system, we create a coordination layer that lets each system work on the part of the problem it's best suited for. The alien engineers leaned closer, their interest clearly growing. The Zareth computational matrix excels at parallel processing, Elena continued, highlighting different systems on the display. Perfect for modeling multiple quantum field interactions simultaneously. The Sylvan biocomputers are excellent at adaptive algorithms. They can adjust the calculations in real time as the cascade evolves. The Tharn mechanical systems have precision timing that could coordinate the entire effort. You're suggesting a meta-system, Gorath said, his patterns pulsing rapidly. A coordination protocol that manages the interaction between our different technological approaches. Exactly, Elena replied. Humans call it systems integration. We've gotten very good at making incompatible things work together. Dr. Ziloth's crystalline form was now glowing brightly with excitement. It could work. The computational load would be distributed across all systems, each handling what it does best. But the coordination protocols would need to be incredibly sophisticated. And they would need to be designed and implemented in less than 5 hours, added the butterfly engineer, with no room for testing or debugging. Elena looked around at the alien faces watching her. Some showed skepticism, others curiosity, and a few seemed almost hopeful. That's the kind of impossible deadline humans live for, she said with a grin. Who's willing to try something that's never been done before? High Counselor Thane's voice suddenly echoed through the engineering deck. This is madness. You propose to entrust the lives of 2.3 million beings to an untested theory created by a species that has been in space for barely a decade. Elena turned toward the communication interface. Honored Counselor, what we propose is to save 2.3 million lives using the best ideas from 47 different civilizations working together. The only thing untested is the cooperation itself. And if you fail? Elena felt the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. Around the engineering deck, hundreds of the galaxy's most brilliant minds waited for her answer. In a few hours, their failure could mean the destruction of the greatest diplomatic achievement in galactic history. If we fail, she said quietly, we fail together, having tried something no one has ever attempted before. But if we succeed... She looked around at the alien engineers, seeing in their strange faces the same expression she had seen in human faces countless times before, the look of people who were about to attempt the impossible. If we succeed, we prove that cooperation isn't just humanity's strength, it's the galaxy's strength. The communication channel fell silent. Elena could hear her own heartbeat in the pause that followed. Finally, High Counselor Thane's voice returned, carrying a tone Elena couldn't quite interpret. Proceed. The test of worthiness. The engineering deck transformed into a hive of unprecedented activity. Elena watched in amazement as beings from 47 different species began working together in ways that had never been attempted in galactic history. The air filled with a symphony of alien languages, electronic beeps, harmonic tones, and the soft hum of advanced technology pushing beyond its normal limits. First priority is establishing communication protocols, Elena announced, her voice carrying surprising authority for someone who had been in space for less than a week. Each species needs a way to share data with every other species in real time. Dr. Ziloth's crystalline form pulsed with rapid calculations. Our quantum processing systems can serve as translation hubs. We can convert any mathematical framework into universal quantum states that other systems can interpret. Excellent, Elena said, making notes on her tablet. Chief Engineer Gorath, can the Nexus Station's main communication array handle 47 simultaneous data streams? Gorath's forearms moved in complex patterns as he accessed internal diagnostics. Theoretically, yes, but the bandwidth requirements will be enormous. We'll need to compress all non-essential communications throughout the station. Do it, Elena replied without hesitation. Marcus stepped closer to Elena, speaking quietly. Are you sure about this? You're basically taking command of the most complex engineering project in galactic history. Elena paused, feeling the weight of his words. She looked around at the alien engineers who were already implementing her suggestions, their various forms of technology beginning to sync together in ways that defied every law of interspecies cooperation. No, she admitted. I'm not sure about anything. But I know what humans do when faced with impossible problems, and right now, these beings need to learn how to think like humans. She raised her voice to address the entire engineering team. Next step, problem decomposition. We need to break the cascade failure into manageable pieces that each species can work on simultaneously. A new voice joined the conversation. Ambassador Clix had arrived on the engineering deck, its compound eyes reflecting the holographic displays surrounding them. Dr. Vasquez, High Counselor Thane has asked me to monitor your progress and provide regular updates to the Confederation leadership. Understood, Elena replied. But I need you to do something else as well. I need you to help coordinate communication between the engineering teams and the rest of the station. Explain, Clix said, its crystalline voice carrying curiosity. This isn't just an engineering problem, Elena continued. The power cascade is affecting life support, artificial gravity, and emergency systems throughout the station. We need real-time feedback from every sector to understand how our changes are affecting the people living here. The mechanical butterfly engineer, who had introduced itself as Researcher Vex, fluttered its 6 wings in what Elena was learning to recognize as excitement. A feedback loop between the macro-engineering and micro-environmental systems. Brilliant. We can optimize our solutions based on actual living conditions rather than purely theoretical models. Exactly, Elena said, feeling more confident as the project took shape. Humans learned long ago that the best solutions come from understanding how they affect real people in real situations. Over the next hour, the engineering deck became something unprecedented in galactic history. Elena watched as species that had never directly collaborated began sharing not just data, but actual problem-solving methodologies. The Zareth's parallel processing algorithms merged with Sylvan bioadaptive calculations. Tharn mechanical precision-guided ethereal energy manipulation techniques. Crystalline computational matrices interfaced with quantum processing systems and biological neural networks. Initial cascade modeling is complete, announced Dr. Zeloth, its form now glowing so brightly that several other beings had to adjust their visual sensors. The quantum field patterns are more complex than we initially calculated. The cascade isn't random, it's following a mathematical progression that suggests underlying structural instabilities in the station's original design. Elena studied the new data flowing across the holographic displays. The math was beyond her formal training, but the patterns reminded her of something she had seen before. It looks like harmonic resonance, she said slowly. Like when an opera singer hits exactly the right note to shatter a wine glass. An interesting analogy, Gorath replied, his bioluminescent patterns shifting to indicate deep thought. The power core's quantum fields may have reached a resonance frequency that amplifies small instabilities into large failures. But resonance works both ways, Elena continued, her excitement growing. If we can identify the exact frequency that's causing the problem, we might be able to generate a counter-resonance that stabilizes the system instead of destroying it. The alien engineers looked at each other with expressions Elena was beginning to recognize as the galactic equivalent of, "Why didn't we think of that?" Counter-resonance stabilization, mused the mechanical butterfly. It would require perfect timing and frequency matching across all quantum fields simultaneously. Which is exactly the kind of coordination we've been building, Elena replied. Each species contributing their expertise to create something none of us could achieve alone. Ambassador Klix moved closer to Elena, its compound eyes reflecting the swirling data displays around them. Dr. Vasquez, I am curious about something. Your species has no experience with technology of this complexity, yet you consistently suggest solutions that our most advanced engineers had not considered. How is this possible? Elena paused in her work considering the question. Around her, beings with thousands of years of technological advancement were implementing ideas she had suggested based on human experience with much simpler problems. I think, she said slowly, it's because humans have spent most of our history solving problems we weren't qualified to solve. We've gotten very good at looking at impossible situations and finding ways to make them possible. Elaborate, Klix requested. Well, Elena said, pulling up a new display showing the current status of their coordination efforts. Humans figured out how to fly by watching birds, even though we don't have wings. We learned to navigate oceans by watching stars, even though we can't naturally perceive magnetic fields. We built computers by studying how our own brains work, even though we still don't fully understand consciousness. She gestured to the alien engineers working around them. Every human achievement started with someone looking at a problem they weren't supposed to be able to solve and asking, what if we tried this instead? Dr. Zeloth's crystalline form pulsed with what Elena had learned indicated amusement. You are saying that ignorance is an advantage? Not ignorance, Elena corrected. Perspective. When you've been solving problems the same way for thousands of years, it becomes hard to imagine other approaches. But when you're new to a problem, you can see possibilities that experts might miss. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the engineering deck. Emergency lights bathed everything in pulsing red, and the holographic displays shifted to show critical system warnings. Cascade acceleration detected, announced the station's computer system in multiple alien languages. Power core failure now estimated in 97 minutes. The engineering deck fell silent except for the sound of emergency alarms. Elena felt her heart racing as she realized that despite all their progress, they were running out of time. Status report, she called out, surprised by how natural it felt to take command of the situation. Counter-resonance calculations are 60% complete, reported Dr. Zeloth. Coordination protocols are operational but untested, added Gorath. Frequency matching algorithms are still being calibrated, said the mechanical butterfly. Elena looked around at the faces of beings from 47 different species, all of whom were now looking to her for leadership. The weight of 2.3 million lives pressed down on her shoulders. Options? She asked. We could attempt implementation with incomplete calculations, suggested Dr. Zilloth. But the risk of accelerating the cascade is approximately 67%. We could evacuate the station, offered Gorath. Emergency protocols could save perhaps 40% of the population. Or, said a new voice, we could try something that has never been attempted in galactic history. Elena turned to see High Counselor Thane entering the engineering deck, the massive dragon-like being's presence filling the space with authority and ancient wisdom. Honored Counselor, Elena said, inclining her head respectfully. Dr. Vasquez, Thane replied, its mechanical voice carrying undertones Elena couldn't interpret. I have been monitoring your efforts. The level of cooperation you have achieved is unprecedented. But not sufficient, Elena said grimly, gesturing to the critical warning still flashing on every display. Perhaps not, Thane agreed. But it has given me an idea. You mentioned that humans excel at solving problems they are not qualified to solve. I wonder if you would be willing to attempt something truly impossible. Elena felt Marcus tense beside her, his military instincts clearly triggered by the ominous tone in the High Counselor's voice. What do you have in mind? Elena asked. Thane moved to the center of the engineering deck, its massive form causing several smaller beings to step back. The cascade failure is not a random event. Our analysis of the quantum field pattern suggests it was triggered by something specific, something that has been building for decades but only now reached critical mass. Triggered by what? Elena asked, though she had a growing suspicion she wouldn't like the answer. Unknown, Thane replied. But whatever it is, the cascade failure here at Nexus Station appears to be spreading to other facilities throughout the galaxy. We have received reports of similar quantum instabilities at 17 other major installations. The engineering deck fell silent except for the continued sound of alarms. Elena felt the blood drain from her face as the implications hit her. You're saying this isn't just about saving Nexus Station, she said slowly. This is about saving the entire galactic infrastructure. Correct, Thane confirmed. And traditional approaches have failed at every location where the cascade has appeared. If your human methods can solve this crisis, they may be the only hope for preventing a galactic catastrophe. Elena looked around at the alien engineers surrounding her. Their various expressions showed the same mix of hope and terror she felt churning in her own stomach. What exactly are you asking us to do? Marcus interjected, his military training keeping his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were facing. High Counselor Thane's mechanical features shifted into what might have been determination. I am asking you to do what humans do best. I am asking you to attempt the impossible and succeed where the galaxy's greatest minds have failed. Elena felt the weight of every eye, sensor, and perception organ in the engineering deck focusing on her. The responsibility was crushing, but somewhere beneath the fear, she felt a familiar spark of excitement. This was the kind of challenge that defined humanity. All right, she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. But we do this the human way. Complete cooperation, shared information, and no species gets left behind. Agreed, Thane said without hesitation. Elena turned to address the assembled engineers. New priority, we're not just solving one cascade failure anymore. We're developing a solution that can be replicated across the galaxy. That means our approach has to be simple enough to implement quickly and robust enough to work with different technological configurations. Dr. Zilloth's crystalline form pulsed rapidly. The computational requirements for a galaxy-wide solution would be astronomical. Even our combined systems cannot model quantum interactions across thousands of installations simultaneously. Then we don't model everything, Elena replied, her mind racing. We identify the core pattern that's causing all the cascades and develop a solution that addresses the root cause rather than the symptoms. She moved to the main holographic display and began pulling up data from the other affected installations. Look at this. The cascade failures aren't random. They're all starting at facilities that have been operational for similar time periods and all using variations of the same basic quantum stabilization technology. Gorath's forearms moved as he accessed historical databases. The technology in question was developed by the Ancient Coalition approximately 4,000 years ago. It has been the foundation of galactic infrastructure ever since. And it's failing now because, Elena prompted, though she was beginning to see the pattern. Because it was never designed to handle this level of integrated use, completed the mechanical butterfly engineer. 4,000 years ago, space stations were isolated facilities. The quantum stabilization systems were built for individual installations, not for the interconnected network we have today. Elena felt pieces clicking together in her mind. It's like, Imagine you have a single guitar string. It can vibrate at its natural frequency without problems. But if you connect hundreds of guitar strings together and they all start vibrating, the resonance patterns become incredibly complex. Eventually, the interactions become so chaotic that the whole system fails. Harmonic interference on a galactic scale, breathed Dr. Ziloth. The quantum fields from thousands of installations have been slowly synchronizing over centuries, creating interference patterns that destabilize the entire network. Exactly, Elena said, feeling the excitement of discovery overriding her fear. And the solution isn't to fight the interference, it's to manage it. She began manipulating the holographic display, showing theoretical models of quantum field interactions. Instead of trying to isolate each installation's quantum field, we coordinate them. We turn the galactic infrastructure into a single, managed system where every facility contributes to overall stability instead of undermining it. The engineering deck erupted in discussion as beings from 47 species began analyzing the implications of Elena's proposal. Electronic chimes, harmonic tones, and mechanical clicks filled the air as the galaxy's greatest minds grappled with a solution that had never been attempted. The synchronization requirements would be unprecedented, warned Gorath. Every quantum stabilization system in the galaxy would need to be recalibrated simultaneously and maintained in perfect coordination thereafter, added the mechanical butterfly. A single installation falling out of sync could destabilize the entire network. Which brings us back to the same problem we've been solving here, Elena said with growing confidence. How to coordinate different systems, different technologies, and different species toward a common goal. She looked around at the alien engineers who had spent the last several hours learning to work together in ways their species had never attempted. We've already proven it can be done on a small scale. Now we just need to scale it up. Ambassador Clix moved closer, its compound eyes reflecting the swirling data patterns around them. Dr. Vasquez, you are proposing to restructure the fundamental technology that supports galactic civilization. The risks are enormous. The risks of doing nothing are worse, Elena replied. How many installations have reported cascade failures in the last hour? Clix accessed its communication systems, pausing as new data flowed through its awareness. 23 additional facilities are showing early-stage quantum instabilities. The pattern is accelerating. Then we're out of time for gradual solutions, Elena said firmly. We implement the coordinated stabilization protocol here at Nexus Station. If it works, we have a template for rapid deployment across the galaxy. If it fails... She didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the engineering deck understood the stakes. Implementation timeline? Asked High Counselor Thane. Elena looked at the countdown displays showing 43 minutes until cascade failure. Around her, the most advanced minds in the galaxy waited for her assessment. 20 minutes to complete the coordination protocols and begin quantum field synchronization, she said. 10 minutes for system stabilization and verification. That gives us 13 minutes of buffer time for unexpected complications. Acceptable margins, Thane declared. Proceed. What followed was the most intense 20 minutes in galactic history. Elena watched in amazement as 47 different species pushed their technology beyond every previous limitation. The Zareth parallel processing systems calculated quantum interaction matrices at speeds that defied their design specifications. Sylvan biocomputers evolved new algorithms in real time to handle data patterns they had never encountered. Tharn mechanical systems maintain timing precision measured in nanoseconds across billions of simultaneous operations. Synchronization protocols ready, announced Dr. Ziloth, its crystalline form now glowing so brightly that it had become difficult to look at directly. Quantum field calculations complete, added Gorath, his bioluminescent patterns cycling through colors Elena had never seen before. Coordination matrix online and stable, reported the mechanical butterfly, its 6 wings moving in complex patterns that somehow helped it interface with its technology. Elena stood at the center of it all, her simple human tablet somehow managing to coordinate systems that represented the pinnacle of galactic technology. The irony wasn't lost on her that the most primitive device on the engineering deck had become the central nervous system for the most advanced engineering project in history. All systems ready for implementation, she announced. Beginning quantum field synchronization in 3, 2, 1, execute. The engineering deck fell silent except for the hum of machinery operating at levels that pushed the boundaries of physics. On the holographic displays, Elena watched as quantum field patterns throughout Nexus Station began shifting into new configurations. The chaotic, destructive cascade was being transformed into a coordinated, stable system. Synchronization at 20%, Dr. Ziloth reported. Field patterns are stabilizing within acceptable parameters. 50%, Gorath added. No cascade acceleration detected. The counter resonance is working. 75%, system integration proceeding smoothly. Quantum field harmonics are achieving optimal alignment. Elena held her breath as the final phase of synchronization began. This was the moment when their theoretical solution would either save 2.3 million lives or accelerate their destruction. 100% synchronization achieved, announced the mechanical butterfly. Quantum cascade has been terminated. All systems are stable and operating within normal parameters. The engineering deck erupted in sounds of celebration that spanned the acoustic range of 47 different species. Electronic chimes mixed with harmonic songs, mechanical clicks blended with biological calls, and through it all, Elena heard something she recognized as universal, the sound of intelligent beings expressing joy at achieving the impossible. But their celebration was interrupted by an emergency communication from High Counselor Thane. Dr. Vasquez, your success at Nexus Station has been noted by installations throughout the galaxy. However, we have just received a communication that changes everything. Elena felt her heart sink. What kind of communication? A message from the Outer Rim territories. The cascade failures are not random technological breakdowns. They are attacks. Something is deliberately destabilizing our quantum infrastructure, and Nexus Station was just the beginning. The engineering deck fell silent as the implications became clear. They had solved the immediate crisis, but they had also attracted the attention of something that didn't want galactic civilization to survive. What's attacking us? Elena asked, though she suspected the answer would be worse than anything she could imagine. We don't know, Thane replied grimly, but we have just detected massive energy signatures moving toward the galactic core. Whatever is doing this is no longer hiding, and according to our long-range sensors, it will reach the core systems, including Earth, in approximately 72 hours. Elena looked around at the alien faces surrounding her, seeing in their expressions the same determination she felt rising in her own chest. They had proven that cooperation could solve impossible problems. Now they would discover if it could save the galaxy itself. The galaxy's last hope. The Confederation War Room had never hosted a gathering like this one. Representatives from every known species in the galaxy filled the massive chamber, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of urgency and fear. Elena stood at the center of it all, no longer the nervous young scientist who had arrived at Nexus Station just hours ago. The crisis had transformed her into something she had never expected to become, the coordinator of galactic defense. Long-range sensors have identified the attacking force, announced High Counselor Thane, its massive form dominating the central platform. What we are facing is not a natural phenomenon or technological failure. It is a deliberate assault on galactic civilization by entities we have never encountered before. The holographic display in the center of the chamber shifted to show the galaxy from a strategic perspective. Dark shapes moved through space like a plague, consuming star systems and leaving nothing but void in their wake. The Devourers, Thane continued, appear to be artificial intelligences of unknown origin. They convert matter and energy into pure information, storing the essence of entire civilizations within their quantum matrices before moving on to the next target. Elena studied the tactical display, her mind racing through possibilities. How many ships are we talking about? Approximately 10,000 vessels, each one larger than our biggest space stations, replied Admiral Corvex, a militaristic species that resembled armored dinosaurs. Their technology is unlike anything in our databases. Energy weapons that can destabilize quantum fields, shields that adapt to any attack, and propulsion systems that allow them to move through space faster than our fastest ships. What about their weaknesses? Marcus asked, his military training focused on finding tactical advantages. Unknown, Admiral Corvex admitted grimly. Every engagement with the Devourers has resulted in complete defeat for our forces. They seem to learn from each encounter, adapting their strategies and technology to counter our tactics. Elena felt the weight of despair settling over the war room. Around her, representatives from dozens of species were discussing evacuation plans, last-ditch defensive strategies, and the grim mathematics of species survival. But something about the situation didn't feel right to her. Wait, she said, her voice cutting through the strategic discussions. If these Devourers are so advanced, why did they attack our infrastructure instead of our military forces directly? The war room fell quiet as beings turned their attention to the human who had somehow become their de facto leader. Explain your reasoning, requested High Counselor Thane. Elena moved to the holographic display and began manipulating the tactical information. Look at their attack pattern. They're not targeting military installations or population centers first. They're going after quantum infrastructure, communication relays, and coordination systems. She highlighted the progression of attacks on the galactic map. They're not trying to destroy us quickly. They're trying to isolate us, to prevent us from working together. Ambassador Clix moved closer, its compound eyes reflecting the strategic data. You believe they fear our cooperation? I think, Elena said slowly, her mind working through the implications. They're afraid of what we accomplished at Nexus Station. We proved that different species can integrate their technology and thinking in ways that create entirely new capabilities. That's something they didn't expect and can't easily counter. Dr. Ziloth's crystalline form pulsed with excitement. The quantum field synchronization we achieved should be impossible according to traditional physics. We created emergent properties that none of our individual technologies could produce alone. Exactly, Elena agreed. And if I'm right about the Devourer's strategy, then our best chance isn't to fight them with traditional military tactics. Our best chance is to do what they're trying to prevent. Cooperate on a scale that's never been attempted before. Admiral Corvex's armored features shifted into skepticism. Dr. Vasquez, these entities have destroyed entire star systems. What form of cooperation could possibly stand against such power? Elena looked around the war room at the faces of beings from across the galaxy, seeing in their expressions the same mix of fear and hope she had observed during the Nexus Station crisis. The kind that turns our greatest weakness into our greatest strength, she replied. Elaborate, commanded High Counselor Thane. Elena began pulling up new displays, showing the distribution of forces and resources across galactic civilization. The Devourers are powerful, but they're also predictable. They operate like a single entity with a single strategy. Every ship, every tactic, every decision follows the same pattern. She gestured to the assembled representatives. But look at us. 47 different species, thousands of different technologies, millions of different ways of thinking about problems. We're chaotic, disorganized, and completely unpredictable. Those are traditionally considered disadvantages in warfare, Admiral Corvex observed. Against a traditional enemy, yes, Elena agreed. But the Devourers aren't traditional. They're artificial intelligences that learn by analyzing patterns and adapting to them. What happens when you try to analyze something that has no consistent pattern? Dr. Ziloth's glow intensified as it processed the implications. Cognitive overload. The system becomes unable to process the contradictory information and begins making errors. Or, added Gorath, his bioluminescent pattern cycling rapidly, it becomes paralyzed by too many possibilities to analyze simultaneously. Elena nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. The Devourers expect us to coordinate like a military force with unified command structures and standardized tactics. Instead, we give them the one thing artificial intelligence can't handle: true chaos, guided by creative intelligence. She moved to the center of the war room, addressing the assembled representatives directly. I propose we abandon all traditional military strategy. Instead of trying to fight the Devourers as a single coordinated force, we fight them as 47 different civilizations using 47 different approaches simultaneously. The war room erupted in discussion as species representatives debated the implications of Elena's proposal. Some voices expressed excitement, others concern, and many simple confusion at the unconventional strategy. High Counselor Thane called for order. Dr. Vasquez, explain how this organized chaos would function in practice. Elena activated her tablet and began projecting new tactical displays. Every species contributes what they do best, but without trying to integrate with other species' approaches. The Zareth use their swarm tactics and parallel processing. The Sylvan deploy biological weapons and adaptive strategies. The Tharn coordinate precision strikes with mechanical efficiency. But instead of coordinating these approaches, we deploy them simultaneously in the same battle space. The result would be complete tactical confusion, Admiral Corvex protested. Our forces would interfere with each other as much as they interfered with the enemy. That's the point, Elena replied. The Devourers will try to analyze our tactics and adapt to them. But if our tactics are constantly changing and interfering with each other in unpredictable ways, their adaptive algorithms will be overwhelmed by contradictory data. Marcus stepped forward, his military experience adding weight to his words. It's like fighting a chess master by playing 47 different games simultaneously with different rules for each game. Even the most advanced artificial intelligence would struggle to optimize strategies for that level of complexity. But would it work? Asked Ambassador Clicks. Elena looked around the war room at the faces of beings who represented the sum total of galactic civilization. Their survival depended on her answer, and she knew it. I don't know, she admitted honestly, but I know it's the kind of impossible solution that humans specialize in, and right now, impossible solutions are all we have left. High Counselor Thane's mechanical features shifted in what Elena was learning to recognize as deep contemplation. The risks are enormous. If your strategy fails, we will have squandered our military resources in disorganized chaos. And if we use traditional military strategy against an enemy that has defeated every traditional force it's encountered, Elena countered, we lose with dignity, Admiral Korvex said grimly. Dignity doesn't save civilizations, Elena replied. Crazy ideas that somehow work do. The debate continued for precious minutes while the Devourer fleet moved closer to the galactic core. Elena watched the tactical displays with growing urgency, knowing that every moment of delay gave their enemy more time to prepare. Finally, High Counselor Thane made the decision that would determine the fate of galactic civilization. We will attempt Dr. Vasquez's unconventional strategy. All species will deploy their forces using their own tactical doctrines without attempting coordination with other species. The human Dr. Vasquez will serve as strategic coordinator. What does that mean exactly? Elena asked. It means, Thane replied, you will have authority to suggest modifications to any species' tactics in real time based on battlefield conditions, but each species retains command of their own forces. Elena felt the familiar mix of excitement and terror that came with attempting something that had never been tried before. When do we begin? The Devourer fleet will reach the Kepler defense grid in 18 hours, Admiral Korvex reported. That will be our first engagement opportunity and our best chance to test your theory before they reach the core systems. 18 hours to prepare the most unconventional military strategy in galactic history, Elena mused. At least we're not rushing into anything. Over the following hours, Elena watched in amazement as galactic civilization transformed itself into something unprecedented. Instead of the careful integration and coordination that had saved Nexus Station, the species of the galaxy began preparing for war using their most distinctive and incompatible approaches. The Zareth prepared swarm fleets of thousands of small, fast ships that moved like schools of fish through space. The Sylvan cultivated biological weapons that could adapt and evolve during combat. The Tharn constructed massive mechanical platforms that could deliver devastating precision strikes across interstellar distances, but it was the smaller species that impressed Elena the most. The crystalline beings of the ethereal collective developed weapons that existed partially outside normal space-time. The energy-based species of the Void Dancers created attacks that could strike from multiple dimensions simultaneously. Even species she had never heard of before contributed unique capabilities that defied conventional military thinking. Preliminary deployment complete, reported Admiral Korvex as the countdown to the first engagement reached its final hours. All species have positioned their forces according to their own tactical preferences. The result is the most chaotic military formation in recorded history. Elena studied the battle formation through her tablet, seeing a three-dimensional maze of different technologies, strategies, and approaches that seemed to follow no coherent pattern whatsoever. It's beautiful, she said, surprising herself with the observation. It's insane, Admiral Korvex replied, though Elena detected a note of admiration in the armored being's voice. Same thing, Elena said with a grin that had become famous throughout the galaxy in the space of a single day. The first contact with the Devourer fleet came exactly on schedule. Elena watched from the command center as long-range sensors detected the massive artificial vessels entering the Kepler system. Each ship was exactly as described, larger than a space station, perfectly geometric, and radiating energy signatures that defied analysis. Devourer fleet has begun scanning our forces, reported the sensor operator, a being that resembled a floating jellyfish covered in technological implants. They appear to be analyzing our formation and tactical deployment. How long until they complete their analysis? Elena asked. Based on previous engagements, approximately 12 minutes for initial tactical assessment, followed by adaptive countermeasures deployment. Elena activated her communication systems, opening channels to every species commander in the battle formation. All forces, this is Strategic Coordinator Vasquez. Remember, the goal is not to win quickly. The goal is to be as unpredictable as possible for as long as possible. Give the Devourers more tactical data than they can process. Understood, came replies in dozens of alien languages. Engage at will, Elena commanded, then added with a smile, and may chaos be with you. What followed was unlike any battle in galactic history. The Zareth swarm fleets attacked in constantly shifting patterns that changed too rapidly for analysis. The Sylvan biological weapons evolved new capabilities every few minutes, becoming completely different threats before the Devourers could adapt. The Tharn precision strikes targeted seemingly random locations that somehow interfered with enemy operations in ways that defied prediction. But it was the combination of all these approaches that created true chaos. Zareth swarm ships would scatter to avoid Sylvan bioweapons, creating openings for Tharn precision strikes. Crystalline beings would phase shift their attacks through dimensions occupied by energy beings, creating interference patterns that produced entirely new types of weapons effects. Devourer adaptive systems are showing signs of stress, reported Dr. Ziloth from its monitoring station. Their analysis algorithms are generating contradictory recommendations for tactical countermeasures. How contradictory? Elena asked. They are simultaneously deploying defenses against swarm tactics, biological weapons, precision strikes, energy attacks, dimensional incursions, and 17 other threat types that should not be able to exist in the same battle space. Elena watched the tactical displays with growing excitement as the Devourer fleet began showing signs of the cognitive overload she had predicted. Their previously perfect formations became irregular. Their adaptive weapon systems began targeting empty space. Their coordination, which had been flawless in every previous engagement, started to break down. They're confused, she said with satisfaction. They're trying to fight 47 different wars at the same time. But the Devourers were not defenseless. As their analysis systems became overwhelmed, they began reverting to simpler strategies. Instead of trying to counter every threat individually, they began targeting the largest concentrations of enemy forces with overwhelming firepower. Multiple species are taking heavy casualties, Admiral Corvex reported grimly. The enemy may be confused, but their weapons are still devastatingly effective. Elena felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders as she watched beings from across the galaxy dying to implement her unconventional strategy. The doubt that had been lurking in the back of her mind began to grow stronger. Dr. Vasquez, came a communication from High Counselor Thane. The battle is not proceeding as projected. Should we consider alternative strategies? Elena stared at the tactical displays, watching as the chaotic beauty of galactic cooperation was slowly being ground down by superior firepower. Her strategy was working in terms of confusing the enemy, but confusion didn't stop directed energy weapons or quantum torpedoes. Then she saw something that changed everything. Wait, she said, her voice cutting through the command center communications. Look at the Devourer targeting patterns. She highlighted specific attack vectors on the tactical display. They're not targeting randomly anymore. They're focusing on the areas where our forces are most chaotic, where the most species are interacting simultaneously. Which makes tactical sense, Admiral Corvex observed. Target the areas of greatest confusion to simplify the battlefield. No, Elena said, her excitement growing as the pattern became clear. They're not trying to simplify the battlefield, they're trying to eliminate the chaos itself. They're afraid of what happens when our different approaches interact with each other. She pulled up sensor data from the areas where multiple species tactics had interfered with each other. Look at these energy readings. When our different weapons and strategies interact, they're creating effects that don't exist in any database. We're not just confusing them with chaos. We're creating new physics that their analysis systems can't comprehend. Dr. Ziloth's crystalline form pulsed rapidly as it processed the implications. The emergent properties we discovered at Nexus Station, we're creating them in warfare as well. Elena felt the familiar thrill of discovering something impossible. All forces, new directive, stop trying to avoid interfering with each other. Start trying to maximize interference. I want every species' tactics interacting with every other species' tactics in ways that have never been attempted before. Dr. Vasquez, Admiral Corvex protested, that will make coordination impossible. We'll be fighting blind. Good, Elena replied. If we can't predict what we're doing, the Devourers certainly can't. What happened next exceeded even Elena's wildest expectations. As the species of the galaxy began deliberately interfering with each other's tactics, the battlefield became a laboratory for impossible physics. Zareth swarm ships flying through Sylvan bioweapon clouds began exhibiting properties of both mechanical precision and biological adaptation. Tharn energy weapons intersecting with crystalline phase attacks created entirely new forms of directed energy that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Impossible energy signatures detected throughout the battle space, reported the sensor operator, its voice filled with wonder. Our forces are generating weapon effects that violate several fundamental laws of physics. How are the Devourers responding? Elena asked. They appear to be experiencing system-wide failures, Dr. Ziloth reported, its glow now brighter than Elena had ever seen. Their adaptive algorithms are generating error cascades. They cannot analyze phenomena that should not be able to exist. On the tactical display, Elena watched as the Devourer fleet began to falter. Ships that had been invincible in every previous engagement started losing cohesion. Their perfect formations dissolved into chaos as individual vessels began behaving erratically. They're not just confused, she realized. They're experiencing something like a nervous breakdown. Their artificial intelligence is being overwhelmed by data that contradicts their fundamental understanding of reality. The battle, which had seemed hopeless just minutes before, began to turn in favor of galactic civilization, but Elena knew that this victory was just the beginning. All forces, maintain maximum interference protocols, she commanded. We've found their weakness, but we need to exploit it completely. These are artificial intelligences. They learn from every encounter. We need to make sure they can't adapt to what we're doing. Over the following hours, the Devourer fleet was systematically destroyed by forces using tactics that should not have been possible. When the last enemy vessel was eliminated, the command center erupted in sounds of celebration from dozens of species. But Elena felt no sense of triumph. She understood that they had discovered something far more important than a new military strategy. High Counselor Thane, she said, opening a communication channel to the Confederation leadership. We need to talk. What we've learned here changes everything about how we understand cooperation, technology, and the nature of intelligence itself. Explain, Thane replied. Elena looked around the command center at the beings from 47 different species who had just accomplished the impossible by working together in ways that defied logic. We've discovered that true cooperation doesn't just combine our individual strengths, she said. It creates entirely new capabilities that none of us could achieve alone. We're not just the sum of our parts. We're something completely new. She paused, feeling the weight of the revelation settling over her. The Devourers attacked us because they recognized something we didn't recognize about ourselves. We're not just another civilization. We're evolution in action. We're intelligence learning to transcend its individual limitations through cooperation. High Counselor Thane's response carried a tone Elena had never heard before, something like awe. Dr. Vasquez, are you suggesting that galactic civilization has become something more than the sum of its component species? Elena smiled, the same expression that had started this entire adventure when she first stepped into the Confederation chamber. I'm suggesting, she said, that we've become something the universe has never seen before, and the quiet species from Earth helped make it possible. As she spoke, Elena realized that humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their military tactics. It was their fundamental belief that different beings could work together to achieve the impossible. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly the point.